go.
All right, so we are on 4, approve minutes. Approve the minutes from the April 12th, 2022 Select Board meeting.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
I'll
And Jacob
abstain.
abstained. Yep.
Elizabeth not
Who's
there?
the-
Oh, and did we have the
Oh.
time when we came out? Because she'll want to know that.
Oh, we came out at 5:23.
Yep,
Okay,
523.
sounds good.
She'll ask.
Hey, we gotta. Where'd she go? Was our deputy town
What'd you
clerk?
guys do with the deputy town clerk? What'd you guys do with the deputy town clerk?
Lizzie,
She's busy.
have you seen Lizzie?
She's busy.
Lizzie's
She'll be
busy.
with you in a minute.
Did I tell her you're out of executive session?
I told
Hard to find good help.
Hard to find any
her. That's what JoJo said.
Yeah,
of. Touche.
yeah, but the subject is sitting right next to you, so you should be careful.
Hey, good night.
Right. Waited for me?
We have to.
Well,
Yeah.
You don't have to.
I don't know how to take minutes.
We came out of executive session at 5:23.
Okay.
And then Don, and then Pam made a motion to accept the minutes. I seconded it. It was all in favor except Jacob stayed.
Correct.
Eric doesn't have his crayons tonight, so.
All right, number 5, approve and sign treasurer's warrant number 43.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor? All right. So we will move on to the combination of 8A, the housing committee report, and 10.
Oh, aren't we on communications?
No, we're skipping ahead.
Oh,
And what was the other one?
10A.
And 10A, sorry,
10A,
housing,
yeah.
Penquist LOI, possible action item. All right. Housing committee, I've had it.
Did you get the documents that were sent? There's a letter of interest from Penquist.
Yep.
Interested in building, housing building up there. And we can just reach out to 4 or 5 other possible builders, none of them were interested. So I feel very fortunate that the Penquist is interested. We went around to several of the town-owned properties and likes the net factory, but there are other places of interest as well. So we have a lot of support, hoping that you'll be interested in pursuing a conversation with Jason.
Yes. The only hiccup there right now is that the town does not own outright the net factory location. So
I think
until that is,
I think this, Jason's right here. He's on the screen if you want to ask him any questions.
Oh, yeah, but
Jason, feel free to add anything. I was just saying that currently the town does not own outright that net factory location. So it's not something we can move on right away. But I think we're working towards that. And I think at some point it could be an option, but I don't know how long that process would take. So I don't know if there are any questions from the board on the proposal.
Yeah, we gotta square up any ownership of the water district first
Right.
before we can figure out any.
The
future
next steps,
actions.
exactly.
Right, yeah, I mean, I'm encouraged, but, you know, we have work to do. This won't be quick.
All right.
Do you have any sense of what the time might be?
no.
That's not a me question for someone
I
else.
thought Andy was talking.
Go ahead, Andy.
I was just gonna ask or clarify if the board, how the board feels about, and does the board want to acknowledge moving forward in some direction, at least with Penquist. You know, the committee has done a lot to reach out to other potential developers to invite them out to the island. And, you know, would you at least want to kind of give a nod to working with Penquist and whatever solution is identified as a good next step so that they're able to kind of work with the committee and the board a little bit more still? You know, even with the recommendation from the housing committee, but there's still a lot of things that could be considered. You know, do you at least want to acknowledge and work, you know, agree to kind of work forward from this point with Penquist?
Don't see why not.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I mean, again, if it's specifically about net factory, there's nothing we as the town can do yet. I'm not saying we don't,
Want to do something.
right, I'm not saying we don't want to do something, but we cannot do anything until we work out with the water district, the ownership piece. So if you would like us to make a statement, put something forward, that's fine. I just don't know how, if this is something we need to act on now and they want to start like next month, it's not gonna happen.
If I may, no, I can appreciate where the select board is coming from, and I wasn't aware of the ownership situation, but Andrew connected with me yesterday, I think, and gave me some background on that, so that was helpful. I would say that we remain interested and certainly can be patient in what we may want to do. If there's at least a signal that there's interest in exploring the concept, perhaps it would be appropriate for us, not specific to that site, but have some more further conversations with the community around what we would intend to want to do there or somewhere else in the community or on the island, around the populations to be served, the number of units, those kinds of things. So that way it isn't a foreign concept once we, get to or move further down the road as you guys have clarity on what you may do with that property.
Yes, I think we're all in agreement that makes sense. If there's other work that can be done in the meantime while we square away this issue with this particular piece of property, then yes, by all means, let's start doing whatever work we can in the meantime and get ahead of things. So I think we're all in agreement on that, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
are there other parcels?
Yeah, we looked at a couple of other parcels. The one that also is of interest is at the airport, because it's that highland up behind the house and it's cleared. There are no trees to be removed, no stumps. There's easy access. It's off a big town road. So that's another possibility. And what the housing committee, we have other housing committee members here who could speak besides me, but it may be a patchwork of different kinds of housing in different places. Maybe tiny houses some places, maybe single family houses with yards and stuff with people with kids, that need more space. We don't really know. I mean, we were talking to Jason about family housing, older folks housing, a combination. So we'll see, what's possible. One thing is though, that there's a lot of money right now in the state for housing. And I don't know, Jason knows about this better certainly than I ever will, but don't want to lose the opportunity to apply for funding.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just don't know whether that's something that needs to be taken into consideration in some way.
That property, that airport property we looked at, remember, for the town public works.
How big of a lot is that?
Can't remember.
Decent size.
I don't know if the acreage, I don't recall.
It's pretty big.
7? Okay.
We didn't approve of that particular site because of the hill, we thought with the trucks and
Right.
winter that it just didn't
But I
seem
mean, for
appropriate.
housing, it's a totally
Totally
different.
different.
yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't great for a town garage, but for housing, it seems like that might be a
Yeah.
decent spot for them to
Right.
investigate.
Is it town water and sewer?
No.
No, it's
No.
at
Because
the
I thought that
airport.
was a consideration that the
Well,
properties had to be within town sewer and water.
Oh.
I don't think for development.
You don't have to be, but it's
Mm.
certainly a big plus.
Right.
And in town, of course, people that don't have cars, your basic amenities are obviously right down the street. The school is walking distance,
The ferry boats.
ferry boats, I mean,
For rental housing, water and sewer is critical, or it is required. But I know the committee is also looking at doing or exploring doing some work around single family home ownership. That obviously is a little bit more flexible, but from our perspective, our funders require access to public water and sewer just for a variety of reasons, not least of which we hate to spend millions of dollars building something and then have a well dry up and not be able to have the tenants live there sustainably.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay.
Sorry.
Extra property is 21 acres.
Okay.
Wow.
Eric,
And when Del
That
West
is-
did the original survey, he actually thought ahead and he actually marked off some potential house lots. So there's already been that groundwork already done that Del just did on his own, so that's helpful too. So,
for the airport.
For the
property.
airport,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Okay, so think we're all in agreement. We would like to move forward with Penquist, correct?
Yes.
In some kind of
Yes.
fashion. So do we need to make a motion, Andy, or is there anything that we need to agree upon today, or?
I mean, unless Jason needs something with a formal motion, I mean, certainly at the very least, just an acknowledgement from the board that, you know, you're interested in pursuing kind of options and next steps for addressing some of the housing solution issues on the island with Penquist. You know, in case we're looking back on this, you know, the committee's minutes will be in the record and acknowledges that, you know, they've reached out to a lot of different, you know, organizations, and a couple of them even suggested that, you know, the town do work with Penquist, you know, instead of them. So I think that's a good thing in that regard. Should there be questions about why did the board pick to work solely with one entity? So I don't know if Jason, if you need a more formalized motion or not, but if not, it could just be kind of a general agreement or a consensus.
No, I think this is helpful, you know, for now and understanding the limitations certainly, but you know, my intent would be to reconnect with the committee and host maybe a couple of public discussions around housing. We can do some informational stuff and also get some more feedback in terms of what you know, community members would support in terms of the look and feel of affordable housing as well.
Great. Any other questions, comments? No?
Thank
Okay.
you to the housing committee.
Yes.
and Thank you,
Thank you.
Jason.
Thank you, Jason, for joining.
Thank you for your endless support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for your work. All right.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you, you
Thank you.
too. So that is 8A and 10A. Unless the housing committee has anything else to report. Okay, thank you. All right. We will go backwards to 6, communications, boundary line agreement.
I think I saw Wes in the audience there. Wes had shared after the last meeting a boundary line agreement. This has to do with the Idaho Mountain Town Park and the shared boundary with John Erie. It's a piece of property that is for sale. And so the agreement was presented for the town to accept what was presented in a survey of a certain line of that shared line. I'll just bear with me 1 second. I'll pull the map up if that would be helpful. So this kind of gray parcel there is the piece that John Erie owns, and then this piece kind of to the north or west of that is the Idaho Mountain Town Park. And so the agreement's asking the town to consider agreeing to this particular line in the points in which the corners would be marked, and then that compass bearing between the two. I talked to Wes yesterday. Wes can add more to this, but talked to him yesterday about that, just to understand a little bit more about the maps. And, you know, there's a couple of different versions of it. And, you know, one thing that had jumped out at me was the bearings between property boundaries or the corner marks were different than on what's described in the deeds and on other maps that we've seen or have generally of that area. You know, Wes pointed out that perhaps one of the differences with that was the reading of magnetic north, and as that changes, you know, there might be something with that, but it'd be good in my mind, good to verify that is what the degree change has been since that deed was described, perhaps. I did write to MMA just to gain clarity on the process in which you know, the board or the town would need to move to agree to a boundary line agreement. You know, and with what I had shared with them, and I shared the agreement that you have, you know, they were suggesting that it would be a town meeting that would authorize that agreement. And then there was also of note on the survey as presented, a shed that would appear to be an encroachment on the property. Try and go in a little closer there. I kind of note this shed down here in that lower part of the shared boundary line. That I don't know what to make of that, but that was another piece of what MMA had relayed back to us, is we might want to find out more about that before going forward with a town meeting to approve anything.
Andy, do you have that 1974 plan that I sent you that you could put up? And do they have the hard copy of what you just had up?
I think the hard copy should be there for the proposed boundary lines. Lizzie, if they weren't in the yellow folder, there was a large legal size green hanging file that was near the desk. I don't know if that made it in.
So what is the shed? Is it something that's really old or is it something that's new?
I think that, I expect that it belongs to COVID.
So can it be moved?
I expect, I mean, right, what we're looking at, the line is that there's 2 points that Dell put in 1970 that share with John Airy. And then in the plan that was just up there, which was done 4 years later, he acknowledges that maybe he put the points in the wrong place. And they appear to be off by about 75 feet. Which it's like this is Tobin's here. And I think he believed that this corner was here, but his deed puts it here. The towns, there was a plan that Dell did in 1970 that put the corner here. On the other end of the line, can you drop that down a little, Andy? We're missing this. No, you need to go down. Okay. Currently, we'll back up just a hair.
That's the main one.
Corners on the ground. This corner, this corner, this corner, and this corner. According to the deed the town got. But there's a plan the town has that Dell did that drawing. And then 4 years later, when he had more information, right here it says, can you go up just a hair? Andy, so we can read. He says probably the correct line. I mean, he's got like a multiple choice here. So this line is actually where the current survey is, and in 75 feet. On the same line, but and the same thing happens down here, where the town, this line here is been shown on. It was a subdivision done in '84 by the Webster family, and Dell did it, and he holds this being the line. So
which is the line that we're concerned about? Just this one on the left, right?
the surveyor, he can.
Well, which one is the town side that we're worried about?
This is the town side.
Right, on that map.
On
though.
that map, yeah. I think.
This is the town here.
Okay.
Oh.
This is John Airy here.
Okay.
This is John Frumer over here. It looks like the line should have been slid about 75 feet, but the line itself is the same. These points are there, and they show on that the line crosses those points.
So are we moving the park line? I guess I'm confused what the towns,
Well, it appears that Dell put in corners when he didn't have all the information. And 4 years later, he got more information and suggested that the correct line was,
for the park?
yes, well, this line right here. It goes up to a common point. And, the line should have come here, but he put the corner there. He probably went with a compass bearing, which changes from time to
So we're
time.
just sliding the line back to make it a straight line instead of having like a little.
Well, it is a straight line, it's just going to the south, basically 75 feet. I mean, what a boundary line agreement does is John Airy would release any claim he has this side of the line, and you would release any claim to the other side of the line. It really doesn't.
It's not huge.
I mean, so we just have to take this to a town meeting. We can't do it ourselves.
No, we can't.
So I say, I mean,
So does this change the size of,
I don't think it does.
Town of Vinalhaven,
It just
it doesn't-
moves the line
it just moves the
75,
line.
both lines 75 feet. I think it's
Okay.
the same amount of space, no matter what. It's just moving,
Mhm.
clarifying it, which, I mean,
but the
Well, we have- we-
encroachment,
we-
is that something we have to worry about?
I
Is
mean,
that
if
on
he
both
thought he
pieces
was
of
building on
property?
his land at the time, I mean,
I mean, I don't,
if it's not bothering anyone, I don't know.
right,
what
from a
the
town
issue is,
perspective,
but-
it's not bothering the town,
Mhm.
as far as I know.
And I
so-
don't think it has any,
And just make sure that whenever the new line gets drawn, that you give yourself the boundary you need. So you're not violating, setbacks. In case someone else down the road. Sorry, but, I mean,
We'll take it to the town meeting. That's all we can say, right?
Yeah,
know,
and that's all we can do.
yeah, we'll have Andy draft up, a warrant article and we'll have. It probably won't be annual town meeting, probably have special town meeting. for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Eric, sorry, I'm not the chair.
Sorry, yes, you be quiet. Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to look at the deed too, and what that says, like if that building is now actually on that back property. Do it,
It's a little confusing because the deed probably fits into Dell's drawing of
Original.
1970.
Yeah.
Which, again, 4 years later, he suggested that he had made a mistake. But, when I spoke with the surveyor today, Andy has a concern about the bearings, the compass bearings and how they're different. But apparently magnetic compass bearings change like 14 to 16 degrees in 100 years.
Yeah, we've been having an issue with the lobster lines between zones because they're supposed to go on a magnetic self line, so some zones are gaining ground and some zones are actually losing line if you go by that. So the state's trying to clarify actual
I've
GPS
heard-
points so that it's not a big issue, because that's how they wrote it in 96 with compass magnetic bearing. So it's like a few miles when you go on.
Yeah, you
No.
get that kind of distance, it
We're
adds
talking about
up.
75
so-
feet. I don't think it's.
I mean,
Right.
we're
I'm
also,
not gonna
there's,
worry.
No, and we're not, it's not anything.
there's
infringe on
different,
the park.
I've seen surveyors put on different plans
yeah, I mean, as long as it's
here and
not
elsewhere
different
that
car.
there's a magnetic disturbance in the area, so it throws off the compass a little. But this survey that is in front of you was done with GPS.
Mhm.
So
Okay,
the guy said 100 years from now,
It'll be the
it'll be
same.
the same.
So we should
All right.
probably clarify it if it was magnetic.
yeah,
50
If we
years
were
ago.
talking about anything more than 75 feet, it's 75 feet. I mean,
And-
it's clearly not gonna,
There's nowhere close to where the actual park area is.
it's not gonna do, yeah.
No, yeah, so it's not.
all right.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have a town warrant thing, and if they vote on to accept it, they vote on to
Right.
accept it. It's
Eric,
nothing we can really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying on that deed, if it says no structures or, only park use, that's where you might run into a problem if the building is on the town.
I don't think the building is in town.
Yeah,
That's the only
well,
thing
we'll
I'm
cross
saying.
that bridge
What'd
when
you
we
say,
come to
Leslie?
it.
I think the building is on
Well,
the
it's
rented
just simple,
property,
read the deed.
not the park.
I've not been up in there, so I have no
I
idea.
don't even, I should,
Pretty wild.
I don't even know where.
I've
it
been
is,
to
and
Chris.
20 years ago, I took my four-wheel drive truck up to the park, and I said I'd never do it again.
Never do.
Yeah, I don't think you can do it
I
now.
mean, right now, this part of the road is washed out.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I walked up there the day you were up there. I was like, oh, wow.
all right,
It doesn't get very
So-
much.
I think we have I think we know what we need to do, so, all right.
The consensus is,
We'll have to have a special town meeting, have town vote on it. I don't see any issue with it.
No.
Good. Any other questions from the board? All right, thank you.
thanks, Russ.
Do less.
6B, waste management.
You just have to acknowledge the current climate, there isn't much we can do about it.
Oh,
We
no,
signed a
no, no,
contract.
We signed the contract. They
They-
don't know.
they-
They want
they're
more
asking
for
for
us.
it. We don't have to approve this.
No, but I mean, they're gonna get us on the next contract, is what I'm saying.
That's the
all,
next
I mean,
contract.
Yeah, right, no, worry about the next contract or the next contract, but
No, I mean, we just acknowledge we received the letter and don't do
Oh,
anything about
gotcha.
it, right? Or do we not even acknowledge we received the letter and just say nothing?
Wow.
I don't know what to tell them. Tell them that.
Andy,
we
do you
want-
have
we
a
want some-
recommendation on this?
No, I wasn't saying.
Yeah, I mean, so I talked to Peter today in more depth about this and did clarify that this is coming to the town as, and we're not the only town, but every town got this that they work with. He provided a little more depth on, their cost they're seeing. And it is a request. There is in the contract a force majeure section that takes into account a pretty wide range of circumstances that could cause a contract price to change for things that are beyond ours or their control. And so, I mean, I think it's certainly possible that it could satisfy, the issues they're citing for cost increase could certainly make a case for that, satisfying that section. I did look at, well, what is the cost? What does 3% look like for us on next year's proposed?
Next question.
Yeah, next year's budget, or the estimates on what we were gonna generate for waste and haul off. And I did clarify that it would apply not just to the tip fees, but also the hauling contract, which he was suggesting that it was a pretty sizable increase on what the hauling contract was, and 3% wouldn't even touch what he was suggesting the number was. But 3% for both the hauling services and the tip fees is about $5,000 based on what we estimated for waste generation next year for solid waste and demo.
What are we gonna cut?
That's what the 3% would represent, $5,000.
Is the metal separate?
Yeah, it's recycled.
Well, they mentioned in here the cost to recycle vehicles, right? I don't know, but they haven't been taking any of our vehicles, so.
Yeah, the only thing they take of ours through our contract is solid waste, demo, tires. The metal is through just Thomaston Recycling for most of the metal. The cars we're still trying to get rid of. The recycling, the single stream recycling is through a separate contract with EcoMaine. The special and hazardous waste and e-waste go through some other haulers. So it's the waste management contract is really your solid waste, your garbage bags and your demo materials and your tires.
So if we do not approve their request, will they cancel the contract?
I don't think they'll cancel the contract. I mean, they might come back with a different letter saying per section 15 of our contract, we're entitled to an increase anyways. This perhaps is an opportunity for us to have a conversation with them and kind of say, hey, look, we're in the middle of our budget year now, toward the end of our budget year, but we're also about to set a warrant article for next budget year. So, this wasn't taken into consideration. So we're going to have to look at our budgets and say, how do we make this work? And what's an amount we can afford? What's an amount that's, he's asking for 3%, $5,000 in the total year's budget. It's a lot better than saying, hey, it actually needs to be 10%. And the contract, just for reference, the contract that we signed in 2018 was a 5-year contract. So you can expect Waste Management to come back and talk about the next contract probably by the end of the calendar year this year. They said they tried to get about a year ahead of it to renew a contract. So, you'll be talking with them again soon. And as Jake suggested, if it's something that can be avoided now, it's going to be, you're going to catch up at that point anyways.
They're
and
gonna
That's
raise
what I
it.
was curious, because I thought we just signed a contract, so they're gonna, perhaps now we could say, all right, we'll give you 3% if you'll lock us in for another,
5 years.
right, instead of them trying to get us for 25% in the
Right.
year, so I mean.
There's probably
they
no
might
way they'll
say-
agree to just 3% though, because it sounds like their costs are
No,
going
but
up. even more
ask
than
them to propose updating the contract a year early, just and see.
that. Yeah, I mean, we've got to try to barter here a little bit and see if we can use our position to lock in something a little more favorable, because we don't want to anger them, like, all right, and then they come back with a contract next year, like, we're gonna raise your rates 20%.
What's the
So
basis for the increase?
their inflation.
Inflation.
It says there.
Inflation of, is it fuel primarily?
They're saying
Fuel.
labor costs
adverse
doubled.
impacts of
Labor.
inflation caused in large part by an economy reemerging from COVID-19, but hampered by labor and supply chain constraints.
But you know, they own the land where they
Utilities
do the tipping, so that hasn't gone up any. It's just the
Their costs.
wages and the, I mean, they knew what, I don't know if they knew what the ferry schedule was gonna be. I mean, they probably didn't foresee fuel costs going up by quite as much as they have. So the fuel and the labor cost is the only thing that
They say
they
that
probably didn't foresee 5 years ago.
For
But
one
they had the
example-
land locked in where they were gonna dump the trash, and they had all
the steel needed for their solid waste and recycling vehicles and containers increased more than 150% over the past 12 months. Additionally, frontline labor costs have nearly doubled since 2020, which represent a substantial portion of Waste Management's overall operating costs. So labor shortages.
Junk cars are worth more now.
Yeah, but they don't.
Nobody's
get those
taking them.
They
anymore.
don't take them.
They don't take them.
They're just talking about how much it costs them to build the dump trucks, 150.
So our contract will be up after 2023, is that correct?
yeah, it ends December of 23.
All right.
So we still got another 18 months.
But we'll be
Right.
probably with them at the end of this calendar year.
Because
Well, likely, yeah, Peter will likely be reaching out to the town at the end of this calendar year to talk about the next contract. I mean, and at that point, I mean, we saw it with the last one, the only reason we're paying is, the amount we're paying now. Not that it's inexpensive, but it's certainly a lot less than what the kind of going rate was for a new member for them. Is because we've been with them for so long. I mean, I think a lot of towns you're looking at probably closer to $100 a ton. We're still in the 80 something range. So I don't know what that looks like or what kind of option there is, for the next contract renewal, considering how long we've been a customer of theirs. Hopefully there's some consideration, but I mean, they're a business, they got to cover their costs too. And we've got to think about what's best for us. We didn't put it out to bid last time because they were offering a substantial difference in the price. If it had gone out to bid, they would have not taken into consideration how long we've been customers. I think the other thing to think about, and we talked about it briefly with the last contract renewal, and at some point, I'm not proposing you shouldn't make a decision now or even talk about it now, but we talked about it then. We looked at how much it costs to pay someone to haul the trash for us. And it's almost, almost $900, I think, each time they come out, 850 or somewhere between 850 and 900 just to pay a company to come out and get the container. And then there's still the boat fee. So is there a point in there that, that becomes a place to look at the cost, and is there a way to lower the cost to the taxpayers? And the other thing that we don't usually talk about is there a way to encourage somehow and educate and encourage people to just throw less away? That's, a lot of towns are starting to look at what can we do. That's what the state was looking at when they had the legislation this year to add $1 or $2 surcharge on all per ton fee for solid waste disposal, which was going to get passed on to towns. It was assessed to the waste management companies, and it was going to get passed on to the towns if it went in. But my understanding is a lot of that money that would be generated would supposed to be going to education about waste and ways to reduce or handle it differently. So that's always an option. I mean, like we did with the campaign for recycling, and try and make sure that's successful as it has been. Something we could try and look at doing is encourage people to use more reusable products or throw less away.
I mean, I don't see how we can reopen the contract if it's still 18 months until it
Mm.
goes, and it's not responsible of us to give them a 3% increase if other towns are probably telling them that they can't do it. It's not in their budget, so I think we should stick to that.
The other thing though is, it's only 5K. I feel like we could find somewhere to cut 5K out, and that keeps them hopefully happy, and maybe we get a more favorable agreement next year. There's that part of it. I'm not saying that will happen, but
Well, wouldn't the money necessarily just come if we just increase fees?
we're trying to do that
You know,
too.
that's
So,
what you do,
yeah,
that's what you, just make it more expensive to throw stuff away.
right.
That's where you get your money from.
And that will encourage people to hopefully recycle more for less away.
But a large part of the operating cost is probably fuel. Fuel is a commodity, it goes up and down. So if you do have a renegotiation, you may want to find a way to tie fuel, so we get the advantage if prices drop as
Right.
well as going up.
Right. Well, there's ways in the contract for them to increase. There should be ways for us to decrease.
Exactly.
Right. When the floor falls out of this economy here in another 6 months, you know, well, it's.
When do they need a response? I didn't see.
They were hoping sooner rather than later to have that continue that conversation. I say continue because he sent the letter and I had the conversation with him today on the phone. And so he was hoping sooner rather than later. I mean, I did remind him that we're in the middle of a budget year, and while we're about to wrap up FY23 budget, I mean, it'd be better, at least I would think, to know it going in than to try and find during the middle of the year. It sounded like if we could, you'd be open to acknowledging that and kind of agreeing to putting something in effect July 1st instead of immediately. So at least gets us to our next fiscal year.
Any suggestions where this $5,000 would come from?
I think it has to start with the increase in the fees.
Mhm.
Increase fees.
It's got
Will
to
that,
start
do you
there.
think that will cover?
You make it, you just figure out approximately how many bags and get
If
thrown
we
away.
increase it enough, it will.
Yeah, it's just make a,
I don't know, we're gonna have to pay eventually.
Right.
So $5,000 is not a great deal of money, so we're gonna have to find it.
Because we don't want to make them mad.
I mean, the idea of, like what Don mentioned about diesel fuel, I mean, it's $5 a gallon on mainland. A year ago, it was $2.80,
Mhm.
it's almost double. But like lumber prices tripled and then they've come back down some. I'm sure steel prices, I mean,
The commodities.
be nice, if you respond, you might suggest that there's certain things it's in everyone's interest to keep an eye on. If steel dropped back to where it was, they shouldn't be getting.
Well, if we wait until July, tell them to wait until July, and then we can negotiate them. At the
I don't know
beginning
if
of
they
the
want to
new,
wait to negotiate till July though. It's more, I think all right, we'll agree to this, but can you not increase 3% until July 1st?
Mm.
Why don't we say we'll give them 2%,
2% right now?
or 2% July 1st? I mean, that's better than nothing. We don't have to give them anything.
I know, but just wait till next
Just until-
contract comes.
I mean, why are we just giving exactly what they asked for? That's not what you get when you negotiate a contract as far as I'm
True,
concerned.
yeah, we could just go back.
We
with
could
this,
say,
yeah.
we could say, no, we have a contract, we're gonna go with that. And we could say, all right, I'm thinking in the back of the mind, we'll get you next time, but we could say, well, we
Put it
can't
out to
do
bid.
3, but can we do 2, or can we split it at 1.5 or something? I mean, we shouldn't just go back at them at 3%. That's my thinking, but,
No, that's a good
What
point.
options do we have other than them?
well, there's other things, but I
We have
mean,
to
we
put
have
out
a
the bid.
contract, we have to put out to bid the next time. There's other waste management
And-
companies, but it's gonna increase. We already know we're not gonna get 2018 rates in
No.
2023. It's gonna probably be,
We're gonna be closer to $100 a
I
ton.
bet it's gonna be probably more like double.
More than that.
160, 180,
I bet it'll be 130 or 40 instead of,
Yeah,
we were paying 60 before this contract, so
yeah. We're in the
it'll be
mid-80s
double to
now.
60 at least. It'll be 120, I bet.
Yeah, what could it hurt to half it and see what they
I don't
think?
know.
I think there's another kind of big unknown. I was talking to Peter today. I'm hoping, so far the ferry service has avoided any rate changes as we're all seeing these increased costs on things. And I don't know what next year's fuel bridge brings for them. I don't know what their next labor contract brings for them, but presumably we won't see another 10-year hold or whatever it was on the prices for the ferry rates. So just acknowledging that hopefully there's a good lead time on what that looks like, because that's not a small part of our transfer station budget. I think half of that solid waste line, if I remember right, is transporting the waste. About $250 per truck in the peak, I believe. We estimate 110 or 120 trucks a year at about $250 each. So you're talking 20 to 30 grand, closer to 30 grand, just to move stuff with a ferry boat. So I mean, any change in rates there has another big potential for impacting the budget for the transfer station as well.
Well, we've got to respond to them. Should we go back to them and say, what about 1.5% starting July 1st? How does the board feel about that?
I think it's better than going back and say, yes, we'll give you everything you want.
Good point.
But, I mean, it's 2,500 instead of 5,000. I mean, we could say, how about 2%? And that's what, another $700-800?
Yeah, roughly.
Start low.
Yeah,
Start
yeah,
at
we'll say, we'll
1.5.
split it with you. How about that? Yeah,
Split it. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
All right.
then we won't really have to, I mean, I would assume the budget could absorb $2,500 without us going back to
Even
it
if they,
now.
even if they did it right now. I
Even if
think
we
could come
don't
up
have
with
to, even if we don't have to raise the, I mean, we're talking about raising fees, but 2,500, we could find that
We could
somewhere in
find
the
that.
budget, a little easier
Yeah.
than 5,000 without having to necessarily raise the trash fees, you know, so. I think we should try and stick at 1.5 if we can.
Yes.
Yes, Andy, if you could reach out to them and see if they're agreeable to 1.5%. If it's instead of July 1st, if that makes it a sticking point, I guess we could do it right away as opposed to waiting then, but
Yeah, it's only 2
Okay.
months.
let's see if we can at least get them to come down.
So we'd prefer to wait till July 1st, but if need be, we could start May 1st.
Right,
May.
3% is a little much right now. And we'll most likely be going out to bid in the next contract anyway.
Probably.
But I agree, the rates are not gonna be, we're not gonna be under $100.
So, well, I mean, if they want a song and dance, we had to raise our wages out here, 8-10% for everyone and this and that. I mean, our budget's not unlimited either.
Right,
so,
exactly.
Right.
I mean,
We still have to.
so, yeah.
All right. Let's move on to 6C, Spirit of America.
This just comes out every year. I don't know if there's any, the board saw the email and if there's any desire to entertain acknowledging someone for the Spirit of America or not.
About sea level rise. We did wastewater last year.
Right.
Sea level rise committee is something been quite active. This past year.
On the main. Discussion. You need to make a motion.
Oh, I don't think so.
All right. So is that noted?
Mhm.
All right, thank you. Move on to 7, speakers from the floor.
I don't know if you want to consider it, but charity is online and that would be 10I.
Yes, why don't we,
Yeah.
seeing
Keep her from waiting.
no speakers from the floor, let's move on to 10I, the fire hall lease.
So we've been talking about this for a little while now. How do you want to lease out that space? Last time we met, I thought we were well, the last meeting we had, we were looking at the possibility of a grant potentially with the library or through the library to kind of create an extension of it. The grant period is closed and we weren't in a position to be able to submit that. So we're back looking at the lease options. We do have two people who had expressed some interest. One was more short-term, a couple days a week. Another one was looking to have the space, kind of had as we had it before, where they looked to have a year-round lease, use it for kind of professional office kind of space for their own operation. If you want to know more, I'm sure Charity wouldn't mind explaining kind of how she envisions using the space. Certainly still having the priority for the animal clinic, Rockland Animal Hospital when they come out. I talked to her today just to confirm the lease term. I think she was hoping to even start as early as May 1st this year. But it proposed a few things in there, a monthly rent of $450, and then that would cover the electricity, sewer, water, and internet for that portion of the building. And then there'd be the understanding that the heating costs would be at their expense for that upstairs space. We do collect the rent from the vet, so that takes into account some, at least their day there. But we would prorate that fuel cost to her as the tenant, in the expectation that the upstairs be at 50 degrees, so that way the bathroom is usable. My understanding with the bathroom is that the piping's all on interior walls, and so it should be fine as long as the space is heated up there. The only other thing we might want to consider is putting a heat trace on the external water line, just for good measure. So we might need to look at doing that just so that there isn't an issue. I know there was, the vet would certainly appreciate having a bathroom for hand washing and just going to the bathroom throughout the winter, and we haven't had that water on for the last few years. So I'm not sure if it's been on before, but that's what we proposed. And I don't know if you have questions or if you want to ask anything of Charity about her use of the space. But that's what I drafted up based on the last meeting that I thought we had talked about. If we could lock in a more year-long lease, that would be easier on our end to be able to collect and manage the space instead of having it one day this use, another day that use, trying to manage that.
I think the rent's too low.
I was thinking the same
I
thing.
think if it's including electricity and the internet, that's a
Yeah.
pretty,
It's pretty low.
Not making anything.
the sewer and the water makes sense certainly, but
It's like gonna be close to free.
yeah,
I mean,
right.
that's downtown, right? I mean, who pays that
Yeah,
And
I,
then-
I,
year round?
I think it needs more like
At least pay the internet.
the internet will be. I mean, the electricity
gonna be
bills
hard
these
to-
days.
It'd be
You
hard to split these up with the other
Tenant?
utilities, yeah, with the other, and then there's the bathroom downstairs, public bathroom.
Right.
I'm thinking more like a $650.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's too low.
What was it before? Was it 450, was it?
Oh,
Yeah,
Before we were at 300 off season, 300 a month off season, and 350 a month during the 6 months during the kind of peak season, if you will.
And that lessee, if I remember, was not timely with their payments.
not at all,
no. Different topic of conversation.
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I agree. I think unfortunately the rent is too low.
Yep. Sorry.
Any idea of what other rents on Main Street are? Vinalhaven Realty and Coffee Shop, I mean, there's probably some information out there that would be helpful.
I do know that most rents on this island do not include basically all utilities. That is not common.
Hmm.
No.
mean, we'd like to see the space used, definitely. But I mean, we have to have maintenance done on the building.
Yep.
People get free heat, they often leave the windows open.
There's an application for them to pay for heat.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
just
I realize
sewer
that.
water.
I mean, water and sewer is understandable because it's public bathroom.
Well, and, I mean, yeah, plus if that's using it.
Right.
And
the-
the use would be minimal.
Why not and just include a certain percentage of the electricity and the internet instead of that's what you're worried about.
What's the internet gonna cost? $100 a month?
It depends on what they
Depends
want
on
for
what they
internet.
got.
Right.
If they have spectrum,
I mean, I think that we already have internet down there for something, don't we, for the,
I don't think there's anything hooked up right now, is
Okay.
there? No.
Not to my knowledge, I
then why would
don't
we
know.
be paying for the internet? then?
And the electricity, again, like that's not, we all know that's not cheap out here. That's
No.
one of the most expensive things out here.
Can you split it out?
It's 1 meter, isn't it?
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't.
Yeah,
I think there's only 1 meter in the building.
I know, I was just wondering what it might cost to
I mean, the
put a
vet's,
second meter.
the vet's there one day,
A month,
Every-
right?
3 weeks. Which, I mean, that's not a lot.
Well, why
12,
don't we
12 days. 12 days a year, I mean.
just 15
Go
When
ahead.
I came up with the 450, I was looking at what are our costs for the year based on our, past use of the building. We have to take into consideration, the vet's there every 3 weeks, as you said, and there's $75 each time they come out for that space. And then, it's a public building for what, 4 or 5 months of the year. So a large portion of the water and sewer bill is, generated by the public restrooms that are downstairs. There's some electricity use year round, whether there's someone renting it or not. So I was looking at it and it was higher than what we had before. The tenant looking at having to pay the fuel cost to heat the upstairs. But on the rent between the two tenants, as it's presented, would bring us in $6,700, just over $6,700, plus the cost for the heating would be covered. So I mean, it covers our expenses. We don't typically go in trying to gain profit on renting our space in the past. I'm just trying to think. I think with the fuel cost that we're estimating, it's a pretty much, it runs itself, and it even includes the ability to put, I think, the $4,000. I think we had budgeted $4,000 next year for that building, for maintenance stuff. So it even took into account the ability to cover that.
So why are we including the internet? Do we have internet down there?
No. I think that should be a cost to the tenant then. If we're not gonna increase the monthly amount, we should not include the internet. I think the electricity, I realize there's really no way, is there?
So the vet
Use-
would have access to
gonna
the
go up.
internet if it's in there. If you want the tenant to pay the internet, I guess we can, try and talk about, who has access to it. And I figured if it was something the town was gonna have on its account, as we do on our other buildings, that, we acknowledge that part of the vet's rent, goes towards that, and this tenant goes towards that.
I don't see how having 2 tenants in there year round at $525 a month is gonna cover all these costs when everything has gone up in cost, in price. Like that's what I can't get my head around. I know you've looked at the numbers. Those are historical numbers. They don't represent what we're seeing today. That's my concern.
And the building's gonna need some work.
The building needs work,
We're
needs to be
talking about
painted.
some capital project, of course, with painting.
And that last estimate on that was like $20,000 or something like that. Something
Yeah,
ridiculous.
that's not, yeah.
Sorry, Ellen, go ahead.
I was just curious, is this a public benefit use where the public's gonna be able to use the upstairs and so
No.
kind of thing, or is it private? Because if it's public, then,
It's not public.
okay, well, if it were public, I could see how that would be a benefit to the community.
Let's amend the rent utilities to be 500 a month and just include electricity, sewer and water. Or do you guys have a better? We need to figure this out. We can't sit here
Right.
scratching our heads until 10 o'clock. So someone's gonna come up with something.
Nicely put, Jake.
Hmm?
Nicely put.
I think,
I don't know.
No,
I just figured you guys didn't think it was good. I'll propose something. If someone has something better, by all means.
Do you want to make that a motion?
Sure, that's my motion, just to change Article 2.
Would you repeat that, please?
Change the monthly rent to 500, but it would include electricity, sewer and water, not the internet. So Article
Okay.
2,
And then the, plus the fuel,
The
would
heat is still in.
Well, I'm not touching any of that. I'm
Yeah,
just touching
okay.
that.
just that first,
section, right?
first
Article
text, yeah.
Article 2, rent.
That's all I'm proposing.
I'll second.
Actually, that's Article 3, it's a typo.
Oh,
Correct,
Well,
it is.
okay, well,
nice catch.
I was looking at it.
Been doing a lot of proofreading lately.
All right,
Yeah.
motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor? All right.
of course, it depends on.
If she wants to go with it, right.
Right.
Issues.
That's fine.
If that doesn't have the internet now, I'm sure.
Terribly dependent on it.
Alright, so
That was I. We'll go back to 8B, engineer report.
You guys all keeping up, right? Yeah. Oh, so let's review the transfer station. Oh,
Did we get those?
no.
I thought we were talking about the
No.
fire hall. Is that what we're talking about?
We still don't
No,
have the
it-
transportation. Maybe next spring we'll get that fixed.
You do have the fire hall on.
Okay,
Outstanding items, none.
It says they're supposed to provide us with update plans on this week sometime, Eric, so if they do that, then they have no plans, but
They say that every week.
they've said that for about a month.
The fire station.
This one?
It was in the back.
No,
It's a bigger package.
Okay.
Ah.
There we go.
Okay.
I included this, I included the fire station piece from them just for the context for the warrant article around the loan.
Second story, for the second story on $150,000. And then that's still not, you still haven't built out the,
No, it just
Interior.
leaves I think in with the picture of the trusses,
yeah,
it says it leaves room for leaves headroom.
yeah, it's just, this is basically just the frame of what a second story would look like,
Just the shell.
yeah.
So is that still our intention to do that?
Well, we just wanted to know what it would cost. You know, but we always have a problem with providing housing,
right.
you know, deputy
So
or
to add another bay and to put the roof on will cost me $1,000.
and you still haven't done the interior of that, you know,
No, that's just raising the roof.
right, yeah.
Just getting it ready to then be
And it's just extending one bay
Yeah,
to fit the new fire truck.
Right.
That's too long. So that's not even any interior work at all for the upstairs part.
right.
Right, we had them mostly look at the roof because we were looking at extending that one bay. And so whatever changes, whatever proposal or solution they were coming up with, we wanted to make sure that, you know, they knew that it was worth looking at, you know, and making sure that any design changes to that bump out would or wouldn't impact the possibility of, you know, raising that roof to accommodate housing if desired in the future. But I think with what they were coming up with as a solution for the bay length, it wouldn't impact, so we wouldn't have to act on that second story now. The cost that we're proposing doesn't reflect building out the second floor. But while they were looking at the extension, we just thought it was worth having them look at that and not boxing ourselves out of that possibility in the future.
Right, which we talked about.
How much extra was it to get a specially designed fire truck again? Was it an extra 50,000?
Well,
One-
before all this inflation, it was an extra 100. I think the last time Mark had heard a number, they were, you know, anywhere between 100 and 200, depending on just a custom build. Depending on exactly what you were doing. I mean, it's kind of with the price of materials and the way things are going, there was no real, I mean, this was just looking at a couple different fire departments from what he was hearing.
To be a wash, adding onto the garage bay.
Yeah.
What is their thoughts on future life of the whole fire hall? Does it say anything in there about? I mean, that thing's gonna be 50 years old. I mean, are we expecting to get another 100 years out of it? Or what's the time frame? When you look at capital projects, where's that? I mean, I assume at some point it will have to be replaced in the next 100 years. Do you have any idea what they said, Andy?
We didn't have them look at that, the structure and like what it was made of, and try and measure its useful life.
Well, buildings should last.
We did find some.
I mean, all buildings on Vinalhaven prove that.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
That building was,
if you're talking sea level rise and all this crap, you gotta think about all that stuff in the next 100 years too, so.
Right.
We're gonna add $150,000 onto it, and then have to move it again in 50 years. Doesn't seem like, it seems like if we get 50 years or 40 years out of a fire truck, it would be more worth it to buy a fire truck that's a little bit shorter, that can fit in the garage we have now, than spending the money. That's why I'm just trying to big picture it. I'm just not trying to look at the tiny little bit of it, so that's all I'm asking. I don't know what's the best thing to do, I'm sure no one is.
What's the justification for a bigger truck?
yeah,
It comes out stamped from the factory,
It's
it's that
standard.
size,
they
so
made them bigger.
where the bay has the furnace in the back, it's a little bit shorter than the other bay, so before we had a truck that could fit in there. Now, if we buy a standard truck, it's 100,000, or it was 100,000 cheaper a couple of years ago, you know.
Can you move the furnace?
We've already, you talked about it, right?
Where would we move the furnace?
Yeah, that's the whole thing, you know.
Well, we wouldn't move the furnace, right? We bump out the front because you don't want to have to pay for, if you have to pay for a bump out anyways and relocate all that plumbing and the furnace and all the plumbing that's in that room, it's going to be cheaper to go out the front than it is out the back.
That's what we have to look at, see what was cheaper to do, to move the furnace or to.
Extending the bay, we thought was the better option, because you do that, then you can buy used fire trucks that are of a standard length, and you could avoid having to buy a brand new custom built one every.
That
Right.
makes sense.
So it's
Right, which it would have to be because it wouldn't fit in the
right.
bay.
So,
Eventually,
I was
we'll
just curious
have
what
to
the
replace the other
justification
one.
was, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's you're damned if you do. damned if you
It's
don't.
by no fault of this board that it's that way.
No.
Yeah, no, just for once, it wasn't our fault.
Woohoo!
What's the furnace expectation on lifelong for that furnace?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
That's a major expense, moving it. Why not just take the damn thing out and put heat pumps in, which are easy to do and probably just as cost effective, if you do it right.
And they don't take up as much room. They're outside. Yeah, I don't know.
If we did that, does that give you enough room to have a standard fire truck in there, though?
If you can eliminate everything in the room, yeah. The room has a furnace. It has the washing machine for the turnout gear in it. I think there's storage in there. Wes probably has a better idea of than I do off the top of my head, what's in that room there, but it's more than just housing a furnace. It's kind of a mechanical room / storage / washroom. So as long as you can find a place to
So there's really
relocate
no way to
all-
eliminate that room, even if we got the furnace out of there, you still need it for other mechanical stuff.
Well, if you're gonna move the furnace, you make room to put the other stuff too.
It's not just moving the furnace, though. There's a lot of other things that
But
happen.
the room would still exist.
Well, you knock the wall out and just make it part of the bay,
Oh.
but you gotta add,
You gotta put the stuff somewhere.
You gotta find-
I mean,
But
the
again,
washer and dryer.
Yeah,
probably
that's
have
not a huge
A
issue.
few options, but, you know, the air compressor and, I mean, there's a pretty substantial furnace.
Okay.
But the idea of, you know, getting an idea of its life expectancy and
Worth looking at.
No, it is.
Yeah, because it could save money in the long run, just on
Exactly.
fuel if it's an old.
Exactly.
Right.
newer furnaces are a hell of a lot smaller than the old ones.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
So-
we should look into a couple other things before we just, I mean, this isn't anything that's coming up on the
Yeah.
issues warrant anyway, right? So-
No,
Yeah.
it's not,
But we should probably look into a couple other things about,
Yeah, no, those are good ideas. Let's look into the age of the furnace, and if at some point, might as well get an idea of the, what they think, how much longer that building itself is gonna be usable. I would think it's still got,
I would think it's got 50 years.
Right,
That's what I
right.
was thinking, like, but I mean,
but it is,
if
might
they
as well-
look in the walls and there's mold or
Maintain
rot or
properly.
something, there's, I mean.
but
I
the
mean,
age of the
that's-
furnace,
I mean, at the school, they put the furnaces up on the second floor.
On the new school?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
but the age of the furnace is something we should look into. And if that can be replaced with something,
Yeah, like you said,
More
if you could
modern.
put it on the second floor, then you can save all that room there.
all
Yeah,
right,
maybe we should look in just a couple other things.
no, we should, if we have time, we might as well look into things. We don't have to make a decision.
Who is
on this yet.
the plumber that we have that goes down there? There must be someone on the island, obviously.
Andy, who do we use to service that? Do you,
I don't know who we use for that building.
Or we could just ask them. I mean, they must know what year it was installed or roughly.
Should be right on the
yeah,
fence.
it's right
Yeah,
I
there.
know,
idea.
Mike Bunker is, I mean, like, he installed the new air compressor. I mean, I think has been a member of the fire department, so he's pretty familiar.
Yeah, well, maybe we can ask him before.
well, we need
I
some
don't know
more
if anyone can
information.
get a hold of him.
I don't know, pretty.
I mean, Mike is a really good problem solver.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean.
You
Yeah,
know,
we
he
should have-
just thinks of things that other people don't.
Because if we don't have to extend the bay, then maybe we can put the money towards building the housing, because we do agree that that is something we need.
Right.
But
But
anyway,
Then the structure of the building should be looked at as well.
right, well, that's why we do that. Look at
Yeah.
the
Well, I assume
furnace, all
that if they
stuff.
said we can fix the roof, they must have looked at the underneath. You can't add a taller roof in another floor without looking at
Right,
some of the structural components of it, I would assume, but
right.
they are engineers.
Yeah, presumably if something was bad, they
They
would
would
have
have
caught
caught
it.
it.
Yes,
Right, because they did point out something that needed to be replaced. It was broken and replaced with wood, and they need to put concrete
Yeah.
there instead.
yeah. So we don't need to make a decision on this particular proposal for now. This is just food for thought. But we need to gather more information on that structure, the furnace.
Yes.
We could really use some transfer station plans.
Yes,
sir.
that is more pressing at the moment.
Yeah, so we can get a bid out,
Yes, yes. Okay,
which we thought we'd have a bid out by now.
we were hoping we would have it out.
Hopefully we'd be almost.
We'll be starting
We thought we'd
next
be
month.
opening the bids this meeting,
Yeah.
I think, didn't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right. 8C downtown project update.
Games on there, right?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Do you want the 5-second overview?
Yes,
Oh,
please.
yeah.
Let's see how well I can do. I think the main exciting thing is we're sort of honing in on the designs, and our goal is to have some draft designs that we can share with you and the immediate stakeholders along the corridor for feedback, and take that feedback and generate the final design. So Brent and I are working on pulling stuff together for hopefully as soon as sometime next week. But we, we definitely want to have something for I think the next meeting. But we'll keep you posted on that. We've just been doing also our grant reporting has been happening, just so staying on top of that. And the other piece is Andy will probably talk about this, but we did receive the $50,000 community action grant, which brings our required match down required match needed down by 50,000. So I think just looking at where we're at, we still are planning to apply for the $250,000 SHIP grant. That's like moving forward. We're still in the very beginning stages of that, but we're very hopeful. So I think when all is said and done, I think we're around still needing around $23,000 to complete the project, but that's where we're at.
Every time you say we get more money, I like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
more grant money is a good thing. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Gabe.
Do we have to go over this contract? Does she need
Yeah,
that
well,
signed?
let's
Should we do
let's
that now?
let's
too,
do that
or-
now. Which item is that? Is that H?
No, Tom.
10H.
10H.
Well, we have her on here, so she doesn't
Yes.
have to.
I just had it. What did I do?
It says resilient communities on top of it.
So,
This was all stuff that we had planned for, right, Andy? This
Yeah.
Contract. There's nothing new on there, I don't think. I kind of looked at it, but seems like
We had-
everything that.
Yeah, so we have our, for next year's budget, the planning and community development line still there. And budget. Yes, it's in there.
the only question I had was on the hours. I know it says it was provided prior to application. Can you just remind me the hours estimate?
Hours estimate for the whole contract, or hours estimated for per hour projects?
The per hour project, because you have a dollar amount for, so basically the grant management and procurement and project development.
Yeah, I'm scrolling. Yeah, so that is sort of an unknown. It really depends on, I think, what you want and what's happening. So a great example of that is the $50,000 grant we just got. That was I provided you with an estimate in advance for how much that would cost for me to apply for the grant and do the enrollment required to be able to apply for the grant. So that was, I think it was a $900 estimate for that. So it would be when something related to those categories comes up, and it seems like something that would be worthwhile to pursue. Obviously, like, it won't be an unknown because we'll be talking about it, but I would then present you with an estimate, and then you would determine if it was something you wanted to move forward with.
Those hourly things are at our discretion. She's
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
perfect. I make a motion, we have Andy sign this contract with Gabe.
I second that. Seconded. All those in favor? There we go.
Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you,
Thank
Gabe.
you. Thank you.
All right, who else is waiting? Is it Millie?
West is planning
West-
commission, I think
all right,
that's next on the thing,
let's-
so we
let's-
should do that.
Let's go
Then
to
Millie will be after
8D, planning commission.
One of the things we've been working on that you asked us to deal with is commercial activity in residential zone. That was prompted by Jake Stanley's permit. It was easy to remove the part of the ordinance under home occupations that allowed it to happen, but we felt we needed to have something else to take its place.
Yep.
So we worked quite hard and long on it. This is what we came up with. Doesn't require any kind of response right now, but I would like to come back at the next meeting or two with the rest of what we've been working on in the last couple of years. Hope of moving it on to a public hearing and then to a vote. The third page of this is eliminating the old language. The first page and a half is it's limited to only the RM1 zone. We considered moving it to making some provision in the RM2 and RM3, but it made it a whole lot more complicated. We'd have to change the comprehensive plan, and that may happen in the future, but this stipulates a lot more review of somebody wanting to run a commercial business in a residential area. Again, it would allow somebody to apply, not necessarily be approved.
So, I mean, these things here, some of these things are kind of what you have to do when you build a wharf or anything on the shoreline zone with a notice and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not any more onerous than some of the other.
And it's a little more than a normal permit for a house or
Right, but I
a
mean,
garage on your
but
property.
it's not any more than the state requires for if you're
No, it's,
building a float, I mean, a wharf or anything like that, that if I remember from 12 years ago when I did mine, but I remember having to put something in the courier or the wind and different things, so.
I mean, we worked on this at several meetings and really tried to.
Is this gonna be up on the website so people can see it, Andy, or?
But once,
There'll probably be some interest in
in another-
public comment on
either
it.
next meeting and the one after that, we should have a whole package of the proposed things, and then
Okay,
it makes sense to me to bring them all forward at once.
right.
Yes, no, let's,
But I mean, if we had this out there, someone might read it and say, I had a different idea on this and maybe, I mean, you know, tweak it before the whole packet, if there's something that they wanted added or something, I mean.
You mean before the public hearing process?
Right, I mean, if we put this out there, and someone might contact you and say, we need more information, or, you know, just so we can have, then we won't have to change it
But
again
there's,
at
I
the
mean,
public
but
hearing.
there's, the thing we're working on now is trying to encourage year-round rental housing. We're come quite a ways on it, but we weren't quite finished.
Okay,
And we hope to finish that up as part of the package.
Wes, weren't we thinking that just some things should go for a public hearing and town vote, and not all the changes that we've been making to the ordinance? There's some specific things that the commission thought should be brought up at one time, right?
Yeah, I mean,
We're trying not to make it too confusing.
I mean, one thing that we won't be bringing forward immediately is the airport helicopter thing. I mean, we're making, you know, Jeff Aronson has done an incredible amount of research and talking to airport owners in Dixfield, Maine. And it's, but it's gonna take a bit more work to make that make sense. But all the other issues we've been working on for the last couple of years, I think are, once we finish the housing, we'll be ready to present to the community and get their feedback.
yeah. It'd be best to do that all at once, like you said.
So it's, some of them are really minute changes, but I mean, this one is pretty substantial.
Mhm.
But again, I was very pleased with the committee. I mean, we've got a great committee, a lot of good arguing goes on. No, a lot of different perspectives, which is those things, if they worked out ahead of time, you should make it for a better ordinance. So if we can meet again before your next meeting, we may very well be able to present something, if not.
So when will I meet, you, like the 12th or something?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, the 10th. Today's the 26th, not 28th,
It's
right?
the 10th, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be the 10th,
Yeah.
second Tuesday, right? So
I'm not gonna be on island on the 10th, but
If we have it all done, I can bring it. I can have it in advance, and then I can bring it,
The 10th and the 24th.
and have it at the 10th.
I won't be here the 24th. No, I will be here the 24th. I can't remember what I'm putting in.
yeah.
I'll be here the 10th.
So I think we should be able to meet next week.
That'd be great.
all right,
Okay.
so we'll wait
Thank
for
you,
the
guys.
remainder of the changes, but thank you for
Yes.
working on
Okay,
this.
that does address all the issues that would be had with. our
Right,
ordinance on
we
that
don't
one, I
want to
think,
limit people from being able to
do things.
run a commercial business, this and that, but
But it's
We've gotta
set
find
up
that
so,
balance.
Like each individual proposal would be looked at for its merits, instead of trying to say yes or no up front. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's some businesses that make sense and others don't on a specific location, but maybe it would in another location.
Okay, that was perfect.
From the planning board's perspective, what you have in front of you gives us more to work on in determining whether to say yes or no, or this should be changed, whereas what was before didn't give us much
Yeah, it
to
was
say
quite a
no
lot.
about.
It's
right,
quite-
no, there should be direction within the ordinances for the planning board. That makes it easier on all of you to make those decisions.
I mean, we're trying to make sense out of it and
Right,
not just be difficult.
right.
And just, what's required is, we think, needed.
Yeah.
But, I mean, one of the things that requires, I think, a majority of the planning board doing an on-site inspection.
Yep, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
I mean, that, nothing beats looking at some.
Right.
In fairness to the residents who live in these neighborhoods, it seems like, the proposal should get proper scrutiny before you have a commercial business plop down in your residential neighborhood.
And one of the things it has is, I think you have to give notice to
About it.
up 30 days ahead,
exactly.
not a week or
Right.
two, I mean, again, people will grumble that they can't do it right now, but
30 days is.
Well, with
takes
that
you a
in
long time to
place,
Get things lined up. out
they'll
here,
just
right?
have to, no, well,
Yeah.
plan ahead.
Hence planning board.
Planning board, yeah.
Plan.
thank you very much.
Get out of
Thank
line.
you.
For the record, the planning board's not in favor of mandated site visits. Which that does mandate.
Okay,
I'm just gonna say that if you're gonna put a commercial use in a residential neighborhood and the planning board's gonna make a decision about this, and they haven't even been to the site. I'm the one who really wanted that in the ordinance and really fought for it, and I think it's really important. And I think if the planning board isn't willing to go, then they should get some other planning board members who are, because I've never worked on a volunteer committee where doing anything where I didn't, try to do the very best I could. And if you're gonna make decisions about land use, you have to see it. How can you, and it's not fair to say, to ask her to go and look and then just take her assessment and make a decision that's gonna be a permitted use for all time.
But this is the only section of the planning. Board,
requires a
that
site visit.
requires a site visit, right? Just this one. I mean, I
For
think
commercial
maybe an
use.
exception could be made for this.
there shouldn't be.
I
that
understand
many
what
of
you're
these,
saying. You don't
right?
want to have to go to every site.
No, it's just for this.
Yeah.
So there really shouldn't be that many that fall under this
This
particular.
is for every time someone wants to build a home or.
No,
Right.
just
Right.
Right.
for commercial applications.
Yeah, we understand what you're saying, that planning board members don't want to go.
Yeah,
to
I
every
surveyed
site.
them,
Right.
and,
No, it's for
they
Oh, yeah,
wanted to
yes.
do it.
Right.
Yes. Yes, it's a volunteer position. We understand you don't want to have to trikes all over the town to every place that you have to
No,
look at.
that's not.
But it seems reasonable for.
I mean, I would think that the
Certain things, yes.
CEO would go visit it first to make sure it's even suitable before it comes as far as the planning board, so.
You mean the chairman of the planning board?
No, the code enforcement
Oh,
officer
I
would,
see, yeah.
would go there first, and, I mean, she would, or they would go there first. And if it wouldn't meet most of the criteria, they wouldn't make you go look at it just because there was an application, I would assume.
Right, they would have to go back to the applicant and say, you need to fix X, Y, Z
Right.
before you submit
Before the
this.
planning board actually.
Right.
has-
Slide right out where you going.
I hope that's how it would work.
In a perfect
What is
world.
the commercial out of, what's known commercial amount of it? Main Street?
Map over there, there's a few different places, but, yeah.
It's pretty much just downtown. Other than the homesteads or
Gravel
R1
pit,
exemptions.
Right.
a couple different things. I mean, there's not a lot of commercial areas.
There's not many.
And anything on the waterfront is, if I recall correctly, is not, has to be fishing related or cannot
It's
be developed.
residential,
Right.
commercial or something, RC.
Residential marine.
Residential marine.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Move on to 8E. Director of Public Works, you okay?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
fine.
She's giving it to me.
I have not
Oh,
given you
I had it 2
anything.
weeks ago.
All right,
I'm fading
Millie's
right
been very
now.
Yes.
patient.
floor is yours.
I have been very, very patient.
Thank
Gold
you.
star. So I'm also gonna make it just as quickly as I can so that you guys can all get home, but we've been doing a lot of work on State Beach Road this week and last week with the new excavator. Just, I think it's a really good place to get a hold of what the machine can do and, sorry, and how much easier to use. So if you guys haven't been up, go up and take a peek at it. Hopefully it'll grass in okay. If it does not grass, then I was thinking that I may look into renting a mulching blower, a hay mulch blower. But that's later on down the road after we get a bunch of this shoulder work done that needs to happen so badly. And then the only other thing really that I have right now is that I'm working on creating a baseline for the employees with their evaluations and setting goal setting for them or with them. And I'm hoping to have that completed this week and turned in. So just to kind of give them a baseline and where we need to go.
Okay. I like it.
I'm liking your updates on Facebook.
Me too.
Thank you. I think it helps.
I wouldn't know, I'm not on it, but if others like it, then that is fine.
Plus it gives people warning, like they're working on State Beach Road, maybe go to Lanes Island.
Yep.
You know,
No, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just
Yeah,
saying
I-
I won't see it. Not
And I
because
think-
I'm not looking, it's because I'm not on it.
I think educating the town on what we're doing helps too.
Yes. I
Yeah,
mean,
it
it-
does.
People ask, what do we get for our tax dollars and that? Well,
Right.
let's tell
Now
them what they get. They'll see it. Yes.
That's it. Me. Any
Thank
questions?
Thanks,
Thank you
Millie.
very much. Thank you for
Yep.
holding on. Good work. We appreciate it. All right. 9, whole business, cemetery mowing RFP. I don't know, I don't recall exactly where we fell on this last time, but hearing last time, with the result of no bids that were submitted, I don't know if you want to put this back out with, the consideration for, asking for a 6-month price and a 12-month price. And then you can decide if you do get different offers for different terms, then you can decide which you'd prefer. And then the other piece based on, I think what we were hearing in the last meeting was in the conditions. So I created like a bid form, if you will, so that, someone that was submitting a bid would put both a 6 or a 12-month price there, and they don't have to put one for both if they don't want to. And then the conditions, the performance requirements, I think was another one that we had heard a little bit about in the last meeting. And this log for the hours performed,
mean, right now we do get like a weekly, log, if you will, of the property that was mowed that week. We don't know how many hours we're spending there. We're not asking for an hourly based contract. So I don't know if that's an issue. I mean, we're not paying by the hour, paying, by the year for the whole job. So I don't know if you're okay with or wanting to see how firm you are on wanting the hours, or if it's okay kind of continuing with what we had, just knowing what was done in that week, that's the pay is being made.
I mean, the original thought was that more information on how long it takes to do certain
Right,
cemeteries, parks, whatever it is, the better we can evaluate whether we need to bring this in-house or continue to contract it out. But if people aren't submitting bids because they don't want to provide record keeping,
So they might think of it as a way of putting themselves out of business if they give that kind of information too. So, I mean, we need someone to do it. If no one's gonna put in a bid, we need to.
right, that's what
Figure
I'm
it
saying,
out.
like, if
If
this
that's
is a
the
sticking
sticking
point,
point.
then maybe but we need to get some bids. I mean, it would be a nice thing to have, but I guess we can't demand it because it doesn't seem like anyone's willing to do that.
Right.
I understand it does take you a little more time because you gotta sit down and pull together a spreadsheet or whatever it is, but
Well, I don't think we need a spreadsheet. They could just write on a piece of paper.
oh, no,
Monday,
it's not a huge.
Monday,
spreadsheet is pretty
Carver
easy to do.
Cemetery,
but-
4 hours.
Yeah, it's super easy.
But probably not as easy as an 8x11 notebook paper.
Whatever
Yeah.
it
in the
is.
truck, but
That's
Not-
When
it.
you
doesn't
get
have to be
done
anything-
mowing,
Doesn't have to
But
be
I mean,
anything.
cemetery,
if that's a
before
sticking
you leave,
point,
you
then-
wrote,
And nobody's gonna
X
bid
amount
on
of
it, then
time.
we're gonna have to throw it out there again.
I don't think it's a big
I
deal.
think we just put out this, what Andy has here,
Yeah, that's fine.
put
Yeah.
this out to bid.
I mean, if we can get a weekly activity report, great.
But I want, it'd be nice to see
It would be nice to see how much, the hours spent on each different
Mm-hmm,
property, but, or
I
Park,
would think
cemetery,
keeping a
whatever.
record of your hours would also be, would
beneficial to you.
justify asking for
For-
more at a later date, or
Right, it would help
Exactly.
them too, if they're like, oh, it takes us
Yeah, it takes this
Right.
80
long.
hours every week to keep up with your contract, so next year we're gonna have to ask,
Right,
I mean, it gives you a basis for what you're bidding to, so.
right.
don't forget the price of gas.
Yeah.
All right, I think the only thing I would say is the bids will be publicly opened and read at the town office. Obviously, that April 11th date has changed, so I don't know if that matters,
It does.
but we just update that.
Yep.
Hopefully, they can be opened and read
Can you change it to
May
May
10th.
12th?
May 10th.
10th, yes.
Is that next one,
Why don't
May
you change
10th?
it to 12th? Yes.
You got the 12th stuck on the brain.
Why?
If I can get someone in the office, I can try and do it tonight and get it out tonight.
Okay, thank you. All right, any more discussion on that? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to 10B, Town Manager Search Contract.
So this is the agreement with Eaton Peabody. At the last meeting, it indicated wanting to work with them. This is the contract to formalize it. Don is willing and waiting to hear what the board's, if you sign this, he's then waiting to hear what the board's desire is to have a meeting with him. And he's generally available most evenings if you want to do a Zoom meeting with him to start. And he can kind of outline the process for you and ask further questions for what a job description would look like. I do owe him kind of a description of the town that we would have normally put in other job postings. So I got to send those to him still. But if you want to make a motion to sign this to work with Eaton Peabody and Don Garish in a search, I'll get those other things to him and just let me know when you'd want to set up a meeting with him.
Well, But we should probably meet with him before the next select board meeting, right? Just so we don't
Mhm,
delay the start of the search.
Yes.
So
that's a good idea.
when is,
You want to give them a couple dates that might work, like next Monday or Tuesday, or to meet or something. I mean, we might not be able to meet when, if we give them 2
Yeah,
different dates,
what is
maybe.
everyone's,
Next week.
I can't do the 4th,
okay,
What's that?
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
I can do,
I can do any day.
Want to do, let's just try Tuesday the 3rd, and
if we can't do Tuesday, would Monday work for people or not?
What time?
Say 5:30 or 5?
is 5 o'clock work for everybody? 5 o'clock?
Yeah, next Tuesday.
next Tuesday. Yeah,
So we have to,
5 o'clock Tuesday.
we have to
yeah, so
make
we
a motion.
we've got to make a
Donald
motion
Sign this
to
contract.
sign the contract.
I
yeah.
move that we sign the contract for the E&P money for the town manager.
So you guys met with him at the last meeting with.
He gave an overview of this.
Yeah.
contract.
Yes.
I don't really feel comfortable
I second that,
voting on this one tonight since I wasn't there, but
that's fine, I second the motion made by Eric.
I'm sure he's fine. I just never spoke to him. so.
All those in favor?
All right, so.
Do you have a copy here that you need me to sign?
You want him to sign this one in the packet, Andy?
Yes, please.
Okay. Consider that the official.
Alrighty,
So that's Tuesday, the 3rd.
At 5,
at
5.
5.
hopefully. You'll be able to get in
Thank you.
touch with him and let us know tomorrow or the next day, right, Andy, if that works?
I'll send an email to him and just CC DW. I'm out of the office the rest of the week, but I'll try and do that in the cemetery thing tonight.
Yeah, just copy me on it and I'll try to coordinate with them.
Yeah, I mean, I assume he can.
It shouldn't
probably do
take
it,
too
but-
long. I mean, we can meet with them for however long you need, but I wouldn't think it'd be
I don't think it'll be
almost
long.
an hour.
It shouldn't even be that long, but,
All right.
all right. Excellent. 10C, personnel policy update, insurance buyout. And we've had some discussion on this already. I don't see an issue with it.
If it's gonna save us roughly $10,000 an employee, I think
Yeah.
it's kind of a no-brainer. but-
Exactly. I mean, there's our increase in waste management fees right there.
Oh, geez.
I mean, if it helps make someone's mind up on whether or not to accept it, I think
Yeah,
it's something that we should implement myself.
Does their insurance have to meet any certain requirements, or is it just if they catastrophic health insurance, for example, is that sufficient? Or do they have to provide, do they have to have a policy that's comparable to what we provide?
That I didn't notice.
I just thought of that randomly, because I didn't see it anywhere.
I haven't seen anything from anyone else's that requires it to be at an equal coverage that we provide. I mean, what they can't do is say, oh, I've got insurance, take a buyout, and then all of a sudden try and enroll in the marketplace. I mean, if your employer offers you insurance, go that, I mean, Leslie would know more about that than I, but
Right.
typically if someone's coming saying, hey, I've got insurance, like they like it, it works for them. I mean, they just show proof that they have it. I mean, they just show us that, either from their current employer or that they've already, paid it. How, I mean, it's just a little bit different for each circumstance, but they would need to show that they are current with their insurance policy, whether again through an employer or themselves. And then, the proposal is that it be like a monthly reimbursement or a monthly buyout, and not like a lump sum. That way, if something happens, halfway through the year, you haven't given them the payout, and then then they need to change. So they just kind of have that month to month, and they just kind of verify
City-
that they're still.
Some of the towns have it, say, substantially close to what they have. I mean, it doesn't,
Well, you would think that they wouldn't want to,
it says that, most of them say the employment office may require you to provide it. It doesn't say they have to. And then some of them says,
proof of insurance, right?
some of them says proof of substantially equal insurance. I mean, every town has a little different wording to it. I mean,
Right.
so we have to kind of say what we want.
If they want to get a catastrophic plan, then
I
go
mean,
for it.
Right.
Up with $8,700 or 10 grand before it even kicks in.
Right.
So, I mean, it's up to them.
I
It might-
think we just say prove that you have some kind of insurance.
Right,
I
you've
mean,
got to
it
prove that you
doesn't-
have health insurance.
Right,
To get the buyout option, to qualify. for
you
the
know,
buyout
just give
option.
$2,700 to not have anything.
Right,
Right.
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 Which I wouldn't think you'd want to do, but.
I mean, you could gamble on it. I'm thinking,
Yeah,
I have no,
That's what you want.
and that's,
Well, yeah, it should say.
but for this particular option, the buyout option, it should state you have to prove you have
The
insurance.
existing coverage.
Right.
Because
See, like the first one here, we could just change it to the 20%, and this is employees may be required to provide proof of insurance coverage, or should say employees shall be required.
Shall be required. I don't think it should be maybe. I think it should be shall be required to provide proof of insurance.
And that's all we need, something like that one line thing, like the town of mine has the insurance opt-out.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
accept.
I've included language in our personnel policy that may speak to that if you want to go to that proposed changes.
Page 6 under.
I think in your packet, 5 and 6 are reversed, but.
Oh, yeah.
but it really.
Oh, yeah.
So it would be under section E.
Yeah, I proposed striking dental insurance and just making E health and dental, where we were, had the board's motion to, for next year to kind of do both, whereas before we had them as separate coverage amounts or premium coverages. But including those in the same thing, and then that second paragraph on page 6 there at the top is a whole new one specific to.
Yeah, I think that line is pretty good.
Yep.
I think to Jake, to your point, it says it must.
See that now.
Must be able to demonstrate.
Yeah, no, that's perfect wording.
I agree. It doesn't need to say towns though, right? It should just say to provide to the town.
Right.
In that second to last sentence.
Town, yeah. I never said I was a.
Right,
an English
to the
major.
town,
I just
yeah.
Like those.
Nope, that's fine.
Take that as out.
All right, so I make a motion, we update the personnel policy to include the insurance buyout option as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? All right. 10D, appoint interim town manager.
I'll make a motion that we accept Andy's recommendation.
Any questions on this?
Is there a date that we have to say, or just, is it what, May?
Andy, remind us, your last day is May 20th, is that correct?
Yeah, May 20th. I haven't talked about the potential for like overlap at all in that last week, but I presume it would be wise to have a couple days at least where they're can kind of download some information and.
Yeah.
So maybe she
Make
can
that
start the 15th or the
16th.
16th. What is the 15th, Monday?
Sunday.
Oh, well, she would start then.
Monday, Tuesday, yeah, it's 16th.
Starting by May 18th at least, maybe. That would be Wednesday. Do you think that'd be?
Wednesday, the 18th.
She'd have
2 days.
Wednesday and Thursday with Andy and then.
I mean, we could have her day could be that Monday, but if she doesn't work, she doesn't, because it's hourly, she won't get
Right,
paid, so,
yeah.
Right. The 16th,
yeah, might as well, right?
Monday the 16th.
Yeah, I move we appoint Marjorie Stratton as interim town manager, rate of $40 an hour. As an hourly non-exempt employee beginning May 16th, 2022. That's what year it is still, right?
Correct.
Second,
All those in favor? All right.
Get all
Got it. I was actually thinking about like officially taking like a shorthand
oh, yeah,
class.
Oof.
Danny could
fun.
probably teach it on Zoom
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He still
10,
teaches up in Waterville, I think.
10E, I think we've already done this, though.
Yep.
Ambulance director
that.
position.
No, the possible
Yes.
action on it.
Possible action on
It'd be, when hiring.
Oh, yes, we need to-
Offer a position.
We need to, all
Right.
right. Ambulance director position, possible action item.
We already did that, didn't we? Or no?
No, we just discussed it, so we have to make a motion.
You cannot confirm it. We did not discuss.
Right.
So did you have two executive sessions?
We had two executive sessions.
Yeah.
Do you Andy, did you happen to write down a time in and out of the,
5:23.
yeah,
That was
out
for
of
the
the
second
second one?
Oh,
You should have come out
5:18,
of the
it was
first
probably
one.
5 minutes on the
It's
second one.
5:18. Do you want to say?
Yeah, 5:02, we went in, the
Yeah.
first came out at
17.
5:17, and then we
Went
went
back
in
in at
5:18,
5:18.
out at 5:23.
Sounds
Yeah.
good to me.
There you go.
Perfect.
If somebody wants to sue us over that, then like.
We're in bigger
That's
trouble.
pretty close to the time if I was looking at my watch.
I move we extend the offer to the candidate for ambulance director, whose name escapes me.
Ryan something, I can't remember.
Ryan Zolek.
To Ryan Nazolek, as presented in the memo we received.
Offer letter.
The offer letter, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll second the.
Everyone got
I'll second
that?
motion.
All right.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Hopefully he can come and pack and retire again.
Yep. 10F, approved job description, custodian.
This is one that's kind of gone unfilled and the staff have been picking up and some volunteers have been helping at the library. Staff in other buildings have been kind of picking up some of the cleaning duties. And so needing to get this job description, it was last updated in 07. Just presenting this as I kind of broke down the responsibilities and kind of seasonally, we have daily things that need to be done. And then generally throughout the whole year, these kind of 2 to 3 times a week. And then kind of some bigger items on a more monthly or yearly basis instead of more, regular. I'm just proposing this. Hopefully it's something that, I don't know if were the board, if you're okay with it or not, but usually, a lot of the ones in the past have kind of been approved by the select board. So just putting this in front of you so we can get this posted if it looks okay.
Looks fine to me.
We're gonna find someone at 15.
It's just
But-
thinking that.
It's gonna have to be, I think,
But that's what
17.
that's what our start. That's what
Mhm.
we,
It's true.
you know.
Should we even, average,
Gonna have to.
I think it's gonna have to be 17, like, I don't know if we
I
should have
agree.
15 in there, like, you're not gonna
think
get
it should be
any
17.
attention to it if it's,
I mean,
We'll just leave it as is.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, you have to have a range in there. You can't just say 17.
Yeah.
You can if we want.
Well, I think
Yeah,
Jake's, I think
just
Jake, I
range.
think Jake's right. I'm probably someone not gonna be much more enthused about 17 than they were about 15.
that's
anyway.
true.
If that's what they're,
getting 35.
I mean, everyone has a range. You don't just say, this is it. I mean,
Boom, this is it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you need a motion on this, Andy? I don't have any changes to this, edits, I mean,
Yeah, I think just approving the job description, I'll just note on there, when this was approved, the job description, and save it for the file and get it posted.
okay. I move we approve the updated job description for the custodian position.
second,
All those in favor? Eleven, report of town manager.
No. Draft annual
Draft
town meeting.
Let's go back.
Pay attention, Mr. Chairman.
10G, draft annual town meeting warrant.
Just about the most important part of the whole select board.
I know, sorry.
I had shared the draft warrant articles with the budget committee as well. Sometimes when we go down through this process, I know this year was a little bit different, where I was late in getting stuff out. Where typically when the budget committee meets on its own, it kind of has its own recommendations sometimes, and where it differs from the select board, we usually make a note of that. I don't know I put it in there not knowing, if how many would be able to attend the meeting or if they were all still on this late into the evening for this one, or how you want to handle that. And but just kind of putting that out there. Did present this based on largely on that 2.0. I did, when I went back through and looked at the revenue offsets to kind of keep that tax increase at the amount we talked about last time. Just scroll through this real quick. I guess I didn't put it in there. Oh, I did. So bear with me. On the expenditure side, what we had presented at the last meeting, was this 8.16% on the expenditures, which was down 2% from my original column in proposal. Made up a big portion of the difference on the tax impact. When we first presented the budget, the tax impact was at 7.62. Going back through and cutting 2% of the expenditures out from initially presented and raising the offsetting revenues gets it to a tax increase of 2.37%. I think when we met last time, it was 2.7, I think. So that's where that was. I don't know if there's any questions on kind of those offsetting revenues. I think those were largely the same. I mostly went back and was looking at the fund balance and what I had presented to offset, certain things with, and went back through and looked at the capital reserve funds and the fund and the reserve funds largely to make sure that made sense. But that's, as presented in what should be reflected in the warrant articles, it would be a 9.3% increase on the revenue side, 8% on the expenditure, and the overall tax impact at 2.37% on our part of the budget. Did you want to go down by article? I don't know how many budget committee members. I see Margaret's on. Dawn, I think I see you in the room still. Is Eric still there?
No,
Eric's not here.
All right, so you don't have a quorum of the budget committee members, unless Bill's in there.
Nope.
No.
Article 17, Andy.
Yep.
There needs a dollar sign in front of 15,000.
Okay.
You're gonna pay in pesos. Google's.
That's coming from our fund balance, so I hope it's not in rubles.
You guys are gonna miss me, aren't you?
What do you mean? We're voting you back on.
That's right.
Again.
Yeah,
Again.
again.
There is the Article 38 is the loan for the authorization to borrow funds up to 100 or not exceeding 150,000 for renovating the public safety building and property. That's again why I included the engineer's report on those costs, just so you can see that again. We talked about it earlier. I don't know where you stand on that, if you're ready. I mean, even if we don't have all the details ironed out, at least for a warrant article, no going into it that there's still other things that we need to look at to try and keep that cost as low as possible. But that 150 would cover, I think they were at,
Like 137 was the estimate, I think.
yeah. So it would support that. They did have contingency in there. I know there was a couple other things I mentioned to Mark the other day, so it carries forward. There were some things that never got finished on the addition for the ambulance building, like some of the siding. And if we're gonna have someone out doing siding work on the extension anyways, I thought it's worth just throwing out there that if it's within the range, within the approved amount, that you might want to entertain having someone finish that off now 10 years later. Assuming there aren't issues behind the siding. That's why it was just a little bit higher, not to exceed, but you could always keep it, well below the 137 if you can find ways to cut things out. That would at least let you have the option to incorporate some of that if needed. Thoughts on that one?
So did we decide not to put in an article about borrowing for the road repairs?
We didn't talk, we mentioned it early on. We didn't talk a lot about it. I didn't include it in this because we didn't circle back on kind of an amount. There's kind of a big unknown on exactly which roads and which extent. I mean, when I run numbers at the last time at the 235 a ton, you were looking at upwards of $5 million for a 2-inch surface on those roads. All the ones that we have to do, it doesn't account for any sort of road, some sections of the road might need to be reconstructed or at least reclaimed. Mill and fill isn't going to be suitable in places where you got a 3-4 inch tire rut. You're losing your shape in some places. So kind of left that out for right now for this, and that's something that still needs to be talked about. And hopefully there's some economies of scale there that, the cost per unit for the asphalt hopefully come down when you have a large enough project and you can get a batch plant onto the island. I don't know what that is. They did a sizable amount of tonnage with the state project, and that wasn't enough. So I think trying to figure out, how much is enough and how much lower can that price come down from the 235 we had seen last time it went out to bid.
But we did have something in the budget for next year to work on some of the roads, correct?
We have the road repair line. So there's 230. A lot of that goes towards like culvert replacements and, like renting the excavator right now is kind of coming out of that to support the road work. Cold patch, we take cold patch out of that. Calcium chloride for the gravel roads comes out of that. Buying gravel comes out. So I mean, it's more of a general road repair line. We've been able to chip away literally at roadsides, replacing culverts on roads that are going to have to get paved, trying to prepare for that next project. So we're able to use some of that to cover some of the prep work. But I don't imagine it's going to cover a company to come out and do reclaiming.
Okay.
That was one of the things we talked about last time too, was, are we open to getting numbers and the idea of bringing a reclaimer out and returning like a road like Round the Island Road to gravel, through the reclaiming process and try and rebuild that base, prior to an asphalt project, just acknowledging that, there's only so much we're going to be able to do with patch material. In some ways we might be better off, at least on certain sections of that, just to, you got to take it out anyways, take it out now, because we can at least grade gravel. We can't do much with the condition of the surface on some sections of that road at this point. So I thought there were a lot of unknowns still. If you want to consider an article that would have an amount, it's just kind of like closing your eyes and throwing at a dartboard for a number.
No, I mean, we're gonna have to deal with it sooner rather than later, but maybe next budget season, when things hopefully settle down with some of the
Well, not to
pricing.
do it outside of the budget process, but you know, at least in the first year, you don't typically have an expense. You know, to pay a loan figure in that first year. So I mean, if you wanted to entertain something, you know, for committing to a loan, it wouldn't impact the current fiscal year if you didn't include it right now.
You're also going to probably need a matching for grants.
We did talk about trying to find grant funds, and you know, we have to have a plan. Basically, we talked about, you know, the state has a project or another program that you can apply to and try and, you know, our roads aren't going to be on a state transportation improvement plan, and that's one of the requirements for the federal funds, the Tiger funds, I think, or the raise funds, the Tiger or raise. You know, and we're not going to be in one of those. So what the state was doing was trying to acknowledge most won't be, but the funds are out there. So can we enter into some sort of partnership with the state on certain roads, and at least, you know, will that be accepted as it's in a plan? And satisfy the federal funding needs. And so we were looking at trying to get someone from the state to look at sections of the state aid road. You know, we're looking at that Vinyl Cove section where it floods, as well as the Folly Pond outfall. That culvert, you know, needs to be addressed. And we were thinking about, you know, because that's something we can partner with the state on for at least those two sections of road. The rest of them, you know, we might be able to make a case for community congressional directed spending money like we got for Main Street. Potentially it'd have to be for next fiscal year if FY24 at this point, you know, if the money's still available. That's another consideration for paving roads. I mean, we don't, you know, generally find a lot of money out there just to pave road, just to pave roads. You know, you're finding it right now in relation to flooding and you know, green infrastructure kind of work, improve safety and pedestrian access, multi-use lanes. But for going up like Round the Island Road and up the North Haven Road, there's still pretty limited grant funds available. But all those would still require some sort of pre-work to submit with a request.
We don't really have the manpower right now, except someone else working on grant funding for roads, which
And for a lot of the roads that we're talking about paving aren't really.
are gonna qualify
They're gonna
anyway.
qualify for grant.
I don't think we should just throw an article in there though about asking to borrow much money when we don't really have a good enough idea of what the cost really is, so.
Maybe you make that the big ask, you know, in the next budget season, you know, when you ask your parents for one big Christmas present, this will be what, you know, this will be the big ask next year.
It's gonna have to be.
I mean, no matter what we mean, the road should have been paved years ago, but
Right.
such is life and whatever. Deal with it. People can slow down, I guess, a little bit.
Or we could just wait for the hover cars.
Yeah, yeah.
They're long overdue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice, you've got two previous paving loans,
Coming off.
You know,
in the next
24 and 25, and they're still too far off. You're not waiting that long, but you know, at least they're on the horizon. You'll be relieving yourself of those $120,000 a year anyways there. And then you're down just to whatever's new from the transfer station to still realize on there. And now this public safety building project. I think it warrants more conversation and research before just throwing a number at it. Or, I mean, if the lending rates were still at, you know, 1 or 2%, it might be worth throwing a big number and just taking out a big bond and kind of going at it in multiple phases, but taking advantage of the low interest rate. Unfortunately, right now, the interest rates aren't what they were a year ago.
No,
Right.
not even a month ago.
Yeah, I guess you might have to wait another year.
It's another thing, we need more information, more research done, to find out what it's actually gonna cost and
Mhm.
actually how much we wanna take on. Like, is it gonna make more sense to take on a bigger project, because then we get the economies of scale, but it doesn't, but
And you might even have, you might not even wait till the next annual town meeting. You might do it sometime late winter next year
Right.
and have a special
Special
town
town
meeting,
meeting.
and that way give it time to go out to bid. So by, by summer, by that next summer,
Yeah.
Yeah,
get the.
it could be a contractor doing the downtown project once they get stuff mobilized. I mean, it could be, you find yourself in a position to, piggyback on a company that comes out for that even, maybe they're best suited at that point once they get mobilized to, they're gonna have some of that equipment out here.
Right. But something we need to get on sooner than later.
Mhm.
All right, on the draft warrant. How is everyone feeling about
Are you
what's
guys
presented?
set on the 15th? Because elections is the 14th, and I know that puts a lot on Darlene to have elections ready and the town meeting ready, straight back to back.
When
We could push it to the 22nd, I guess.
you can, and I won't be there.
Graduation's the 11th. I mean, you don't have to have it,
You want to wait for them to be done.
I'm just, yeah. Graduation's the
Elections aren't until the
11th.
14th.
What? Elections are the 14th.
Oh, seems late.
It's the second Tuesday.
Second Tuesday of the month.
Wow.
Well, can we do it the 16th? Does that give her enough time? I don't
Do it on Thursday.
I don't overburden her. It's,
Yeah,
We always do it on a Wednesday, but that doesn't mean you have to.
I
no,
would prefer to do it on that Wednesday, but we can't move the election, can we?
no.
No, by
Unfortunately.
law, you cannot move the election.
No, I think as long as it's not back to back, it wouldn't be as bad.
Can we do it
If
the
you're not-
previous week?
You don't want this before graduation, and they'll
Yeah.
be busy
Right.
in there.
You're
Honestly,
gone,
What about the
you're,
week after?
He won't be. he'll
Oh,
be
right.
If you want to do it the last week of June, fine, but
I'm kind of half tempted to, it's a lot to ask of her, but maybe it's gonna have to be what it is, it's maybe this
you either
year.
do it the 15th or the last week of June, 27th through the
Is that
30th.
all right, Andy, to push it that close
That's
to?
pretty
But
close.
if it doesn't
You can do it the
pass, I mean,
16th. I mean, it doesn't.
God,
I mean, if it doesn't pass the week of the 20th or the week of the 13th, you're still, you still got a minimum turnaround time to get something back, drafted and, talked about and back out there again anyways. I mean, you're still going to be pushing it into the next fiscal year, even if you're not until even if you meet the 15th, I mean, you're still going to be into the next fiscal year before you come back with an approved warrant article or vote. So, I mean, in terms of like how late in the year, I mean, as long as it does pass, I mean, it's fine. I mean, we had this a couple years ago, right, where one article didn't, and fortunately everything else went forward, and we just dealt with that one.
July with the COVID, so.
Right. I
So
mean,
do
we
we
got the
wanna-
cash. We got the cash to carry a couple weeks or a month or 3 months if we needed to.
Discussion is either the 15th or the 29th, is that what we're saying?
Well, it doesn't have to be the 29th, it could be
What about the first week in June?
So
going.
yeah, but
we'd be getting too close to having the town reports ready if it's the first week of June.
So June is a crappy month all around.
well, we are gonna have a third person in the, if we,
Mhm.
Yeah,
so,
honestly, I think, maybe just gonna say, I think, and this is the way the calendar falls here.
You could push it to the 16th and give her an extra day.
For a day.
I don't think that would.
That's fine, but I just assume keep it that.
The other thing is you guys meet the 14th, which would be the second Tuesday.
We can't set, we can't sort.
Just saying, I would be at elections. I'd have to do it from,
They would actually, the select board would actually, if they stay on a 2-week schedule, would meet the May 10th, 24th, and then June 7th.
7th.
Yeah.
If they stay on a 2-week schedule from there.
So what do you guys think? The 16th? Just move
16th
one
is fine,
extra
it's
day
fine.
onto that Thursday, you think
Yeah.
that would work all right, or?
I
mean,
I think that's
fine.
preferable to the 15th,
Yes.
Well, I mean,
but
What's on your mind?
it's
What's wrong with
whatever,
the
we'll make it
16th?
work.
So the 16th.
My vacation. No, let's do the 16th, that's fine.
It's up to you. And We can make it work if the 15th
No,
is.
I understand it's a lot, you go election day and then town meeting right after that, let's at least give a day in between, so it is what it is. We all have to adjust.
And put it, just to help put it in perspective, the 15th, I mean, that's probably a 6 a.m. to, depending on how long it takes, probably a 10 or 11 o'clock at night, 6 a.m. to 10 or 11 o'clock at night workday. I'm guessing. It's not a big presidential election, so,
Yeah.
Mhm.
so it's a lot to come in on the 15th with having worked the,
The
That
state
kind of
ballots will be machine counted, but we'll have to hand count the town ballots.
So why don't we just move it to that last week of June then? Would that be easier on everyone?
29th is fine with me if you
Well,
want.
it doesn't have to be the 29th, it could be the
Well, that
28th,
would
that's a
be a
Tuesday, right?
I don't care what day we do it.
28th is a Tuesday.
Right, the 28th.
Well, if we wanted to keep it on Wednesday, that's why I was going to the 29th. It doesn't matter to me what day we do it.
We're just cutting it really close to.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
25th.
28th.
28th is Saturday.
No,
No,
so you're
I'm
not
in
looking at
May.
What,
June.
what month are you in?
28th.
June 28th. That way you don't have to worry about double duty with elections.
Mhm.
Sounds good to me.
I know we
You
run the
guys
risk
just tell
of-
me what time to show up and I'll.
I know we run the risk that it doesn't, everything doesn't get passed, but even if we did it on the 16th and never
What I
nothing
mean,
passed.
chances are at least 75% or 90% of the articles are gonna pass, so it's just gonna be one or two things that we're gonna have to come back with. It's not gonna have to be the
I
whole.
mean, since you and I have been on the board, we've only been one.
Correct. So I'm assuming that even if there's a law strike, it would pass.
And this is
75 to
actually,
90%
this
at
is
least,
actually a
so-
lower increase than the year before.
So I would think we should be
We should be
okay.
okay.
continuity of government.
Continuity.
Continuity.
Sorry,
Yes.
it's been a long meeting.
Yes.
It's been a long.
So we're going with the 28th. It's still 6 o'clock, correct?
Yeah.
so I have that noted. I'll double check with the school. Can I draw your attention to just a couple articles, I guess, just to make sure? So Article 23.
Yes.
We have the police cruiser reserve still on the books with about 15,000 in it. In order to fund the ambulance vehicle and equipment reserve, we were originally talking $10,000. I was going to suggest that we move the balance of that police cruiser reserve to the ambulance vehicle and equipment reserve. I don't know if that's agreeable or if you want to add another place in mind for the police cruiser reserve funds that aren't going to be spent by us.
That's fine, right? Everyone
I
agree?
thought that's what we had talked about anyway.
I think yeah, either the ambulance or the fire truck,
Yeah, one or the other public.
one or the other.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fine.
ambulance or fire truck, either one is
Yep.
not
No.
reserve anymore.
The other one that I added that was different, and will just be in there for this year, is we have generally the article that it talks about the board accepting gifts, as well as grants. I included one specifically for the local fiscal
Coronavirus.
recovery funds,
44.
Article 44. And so the US Treasury Department has a nice long, many different resources to go to, but like a 400 something page document that says how those funds can be spent. So it's broad, but it's still limited to what you can spend it on. So, I mean, they're telling you what your options are. So it's kind of like a grant. Some towns, we're kind of caught. Do we treat this like a grant? Do we treat this differently? Does this have to go through a different process? So, the recommendation from some has been to, if you have a warrant article that authorizes the select board to appropriate the funds based on the treasury's rules and parameters, this warrant article would give the select board that authority to spend those within the rules. I don't know if we didn't really talk about that. It's an amount of money that we've got half of it right now, about 59,000. The other half is supposed to come in, I think, in the fall. It'll be
So
about
we're-
118.
118. So where do we have the current funds? Is that just sitting in one of the reserve accounts?
It's in a separate bank account with the first. Just kept it there by itself in case there's any questions about, it's just very clean. That's where it's sitting. If we got to do any reporting on there, we can see any interest accrued's already just sitting right there with that account, what little it is.
Nope, that makes sense.
It's not like we're getting 40 million like Portland that you have to worry about where it's going. It's
Right.
pretty small amount, so I think that's pretty safe to put it in that account and spend it when we figure out what we're doing with it.
Yeah, you gotta, it's worth talking about at some point, and then, in the next few months, but you do have time. You're not rushed to have to decide right now. It is a pretty broad, list of things you could be doing, so that's a good thing. It's a good project to work through, and how the town would want to spend it, or reach out to them to see how they'd want to spend it.
Okay.
But at least gives you the ability to, if you want to use it for matching funds for grants, at least gives you the opportunity to decide through this article that the board can make that decision.
Okay. Any other articles you wanted to discuss?
I think that was it. I'm just circling back around on law enforcement. I put in there what I had presented. I didn't hear anything to suggest it should be something different if there's a change in what Knox County's, for some reason there's a big change all of a sudden with another deputy, then, you mentioned you could always go back to and use fund balance. I just want to make sure I captured that conversation right, that you were okay with the reduction from 2 full-time to 1 full-time with seasonal 7-day coverage in the summer, kind of for 4 months a year.
Which article is that? Sorry, I can't find it.
7.
7. 106, please. Okay. Yeah, and we'll just explain that at the meeting, like it's lower because
They can't fill
they
it.
can't fill the second position. If they somehow get a second deputy that will be able to be out here and we'll have 7 days a week coverage, then we'll come back to you and ask for the additional funds.
Which is pretty big. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's no sense to keep it in the budget until they
Right.
actually can
Right.
fulfill it, so.
exactly.
That was like,
2 years we've been trying to fill it running without,
what was the number before? It was over
180.
60, it was over 180. Okay, so it's
I think, isn't that what we had this year?
it was well over
160,
one,
180,
well north of 160, I thought. All right,
I think that's fine.
Anything else jump out at you on the warrant? Any budget committee members have anything that you noticed?
It looks like what we talked about.
I'll make
So
the
it's-
changes to the 20, from the 15th to the 28th, still at 6 o'clock, or do you want to change that to a different time?
She said 6, didn't I?
should we still do 6? Is that too late?
Did we do it 5 last year?
I can't remember.
What we've done it, one year we started at 7, didn't get done till like 9. and
Yeah.
Last year we did it at 6, and I think we're done by 8 or 8:15. I think 6 is fine.
Yeah.
Because if you do 5, some people might still be working if they're,
Or
All of our
dinner or whatever, yeah.
constituents that come
well, I
here.
mean, some places don't close till 8. but
No, it doesn't
Glastonbury
matter. I
Doesn't
mean,
get in till
6 o'clock is
5:45, so
Right,
6 o'clock kind of has. a-
yeah, we'll keep it at 6.
For all 30 people to show up.
Right.
There it is. I think one year we had 50.
We did have 51 here.
We just need some real controversial thing on there.
Put-
Together.
Please,
Put
no.
broadband back on there, that's
Yeah,
controversial.
oh God.
Talked at one point about setting in, like,
Has to be a
Portsmouth has like
quorum.
30 or something like that.
We We're gonna
Yeah.
say a percentage of the people that
Percentage.
voted, but
Right,
you would never get a budget passed, because you'd never get 70 or 100 people to show
No,
up.
I think that's a
Too
drain.
bad too bad that we don't have it, though.
we can,
Move on.
yep, all right, so I think we're good for now, draft on the warrant. Thank you, Andy.
Oh, yeah, I just want to clarify, do you want to make a motion to approve the town meeting warrant with I presented the draft. Do you want to approve it
As amended.
as amended?
Yeah, I make a motion, we approve the Town of Island Haven, town meeting warrant as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? Great.
If he doesn't care when we have the meeting, he'll be out of here by then.
Either way, middle of June after that.
Well, he has to come back for the annual town meeting
He does?
in his contract.
We can talk about it.
Is that true? I was gonna say, what are you talking about? He's got a new contract.
Tell him the look on his face, he's putting his finger over his face to try and cover his smear.
Oh, man, it's been a long meeting.
Yes, it has.
Okay. Now we are on report of town manager.
I'll just highlight everything else we've pretty much talked about, but there's three things I'll just note. I did put a piece in there about broadband. I did have a quick talk with gentlemen from Consolidated Communications. You probably saw something in the news recently about this broadband or fiber connections they're making in some parts of the state. They're just finishing up Rockland, is my understanding. They've got a few other towns that they've been working with, bigger density places. But they're creating this new fiber leg within the company, which is they're calling, I think, Fidium, is what they called it. They talked about places where it's being built out. The lowest base level of service that they're offering is, what was it, 50? Wrote it down. Might be 50 meg symmetrical service, and it goes up from there in two other options. So a lot's changed in the last year on funding opportunities and how companies are working with towns. The last time we had kind of talked about a consolidated proposal was, I think, with regards to Long Island, Maine, where there was a certain period of time and there was a partnership between the town and the consolidated. The town owned the backbone, the company owned the drops to every premise. It got kind of muddy, or probably assumed that you'd have to continue the contract after the period of time anyways if you didn't own the drops. So anyways, a lot's changed there. I think it's worth keeping conversation going with the companies to see what they're willing to leverage and what that looks like, what kind of commitment that looks like from the municipality. It's certainly not nearly as much as what was talked about before. And there does seem to be some appetite to try and go get the grant funds. That being said, it all does depend on the grant dollars, the money being there, and the jobs being able to get completed during a timeline that's required. So, they got the same issues with supply and labor as any other industry and sector. But in any case, it sounded like it was a good conversation. It sounded like it's worth continuing with them and perhaps another company. The next step really was about kind of coming up with an RFP if you wanted to continue to pursue something, and just kind of get some numbers put to it and see what would it cost to have a commitment from the town to partner with someone to go get grant dollars. It was too high level to suggest any kind of number right now, what it would look like. But I think, generally what he was saying was, if you can get a 50-50 grant match, in a town and a provider go in on the other 50%, that breakdown would have to be figured out and worked out together. But you'd be looking at the smaller portion probably of that 50%. So depending on what the number is, it might be, I don't know if it's something the town still would want to consider or not, but just know that it's something that they're open to continuing a conversation on. Do you want to continue to entertain something and get more information on where things stand now?
Yeah, we might as well get more information. I don't think anyone's gonna want to put up town dollars for it, so I doubt it'll go anywhere, but we might as well get more information.
All depends on how many town dollars you're talking about.
It's gonna be at least $1.5 million, I bet you.
So if it's less than that, you think it's okay?
The message that I got was no dollars should be spent by the town on internet. But yes,
Well, before we didn't really have a plan with anyone, really. We were gonna own it ourselves, and it's gonna be a
A
different.
disaster.
Yeah, this plank would be
We
different than what we
avoided,
had before, but.
chaos.
And it can't hurt to look at the grant funding.
Right.
We have to have money approved by the town to match the funds.
Right,
There's no way
but I mean, just,
it's
look-
gonna be approved.
but just
No way.
looking into it.
Go ahead.
All right, other thing, for those that are on Facebook or got the town notice, we did launch, from the town website, you can access our new, on interactive parcel viewer. So we took the GIS database. Yes, some of the property lines are still outdated. But the database that we had that was only on one computer is now online and like an interactive viewer, like other towns can offer. So planning board will have access to the zoning map on that viewer, applicants will have access to it, staff will have access to it. So that was something Matt was working on, our island fellow. He's got a couple more pieces that he's still putting together, like a cemetery, trying to digitize the cemetery maps. So we have not just the paper copies, but another digital look at this. And then he's still working with Knox EMA on all this, as well as trying to build out like an emergency services kind of viewer for fire and EMS to look at. So those are still coming.
I thought that was good. Did you guys look at
I
it?
haven't got a chance.
Yeah, it's good, because you click on a parcel and the owner, the size, everything comes up. It's cool.
And they had
We tried to put information that was available in the commitment book, so it's not going beyond what's already online. I mean, that our assessing database has a lot of information that can be included, but we limited it to just what's in the commitment book.
I didn't hear what you said, Jake.
I mean, you can look at it different, you can see what, like, different GIS map, not just like what you said, there's different layers of different stuff you can see. You don't have to get an individual map owner, you can see what land the town owns, or from what I saw when I clicked around.
So hopefully that's a good resource. And then I'll just finish up with, we did just this week hire 2 people part-time, one in the town office as a deputy clerk. Abby started yesterday. And then to work with and assist Wes in some of the field work that needs to get done on the assessing side of things, having someone work very part-time to be able to go out and get the photos to update the database, to get measurements on new construction, to pick up new value in next year's assessment. So that if you see a couple new faces, that's what that is.
Well, that'll be helpful for Wes.
Yeah.
And fun for you.
I got nothing.
I've got nothing.
I got nothing.
Andy, are you done?
I'm done.
All right. The only thing I wanted to bring up was the dedication and in memoriam, right, for the annual town report. Did anyone have any other suggestions than what Pam had sent through?
I only sent that to you.
You just sent it to me?
Yeah.
So I didn't even notice.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't even know.
I thought
it was sent to everyone.
I'm
Thank you,
sorry.
Anna.
That's okay. Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah,
Um,
I only sent it to you for you to look at, and then I figured you,
Sorry, I thought it was so many emails. I don't see it.
yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Well, we can do it tomorrow. I can resend that
Yeah, let's
tomorrow.
just send that out and then I'll just respond to the email.
Okay,
All right. Good with that. Yep. All right.
I think our goal is to try and have a draft of the town report by the end of next week.
Can do
so I'll
this
have
part.
another whole week.
All right, we should be able to get something by next Thursday.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
I'm moving. Second, yeah.
All those in favor? Thank you very much, Andy. Everyone on the phone, thank you.
So,
Yeah.
Got it almost right there. You're off by 7 minutes.
Uh,
We were here before.